For the supporter base of the 9 bottom clubs, the rest of 2025 might be a bit boring. Now, finals is never out of the equation until the math doesn't work, but with percentage a big factor, it will take a major collapse from one of the top 9 teams to even give the others a shot at making finals. Now, rebuilding teams can play their younger players and coaches can experiment, but it can be hard for fans with a couple months of the home and away season left, knowing their team is out of the race. This reality has sparked the notion for some change. How can we get more supporter bases engaged in the season for as long as possible? Now, we obviously don't want to gift a final spot for everyone, but with 18 teams and possibly 19 in the competition soon, it is a worry to some that more than half of the clubs miss out after 23 games. There are some simple answers in front of us, and even some more extreme ones, but can any of them work, and will they see AFL traditions abolished in the future? Now, the gap between the top 9 and bottom 9 is real. Port Adelaide and Sydney have been 2 of the better performing teams of late, but it looks like they won't have enough time to make up the wins. But this season has been an anomaly. As AFL fans, we have been treated to even seasons for quite some time. The 2024 finals were decided on the final day. Jack Higgins' goal looked to have killed Carlton's finals hopes before Port Adelaide defeated Fremantle away from home to knock them out and therefore get Carlton in. In 2023, there was a 1-game gap between 6th and 9th, with percentage very even across the ladder, and 2022 had a similar outcome to 2024, with Jamie Elliott's running goal against Carlton ending their finals hopes and getting the Western Bulldogs in by 0.6%. And from 2017 to 2021, the margins between 8th and 10th on the ladder have never exceeded more than 2 games, with the majority of those seasons coming down to 4 points or percentage. We have been lucky for a decade that our home and away seasons haven't panned out and been bland and boring. So the last time we had a clear top 9 and bottom 9 split was way back in 2016. Now, that was an extremely even top 7. First on the ladder was Sydney with 17 wins, and 7th in the eventual premiers in the Bulldogs had 15 wins. Just 2 games separated 1st and 7th. 8th and 9th had St Kilda and North Melbourne on 12 wins each, with the Kangas getting into finals due to their greater percentage. In 2025, it's a similar story, although Collingwood are games clear sitting at the top of the ladder, while 2nd to 8th is where that 2-ish game gap lies. Although it has been around a decade since we have seen a bottom half and top half of the competition split, it hasn't stopped the ideas from floating about on how to keep as many teams in this season as possible. The most talked about and obvious one is a wildcard round. AFL CEO Andrew Dillon has acknowledged the concept is a possibility soon. Perhaps the newly reformed competition committee, set to come in next season, could be the starting point for an official recommendation to the AFL Commission. Now, I'm not sure the name wildcard would be used, it is a bit American, but the basic concept would see 7th versus 10th and 8th versus 9th. If this was to be the case in 2025, it would mean roughly 13 of the clubs would still have a legitimate shot in making it past the home and away season. So let's take a look at some of the positives. While TV ratings and attendances for those clubs between 9th and 13th would be strong until the last round, there would be no big fall-offs or lack of interest because of the chance of making the wild card. It also puts value on 5th and 6th, which in this format would likely get an extra week off alongside the top 4. Now, this does segue into a possible negative, as say the wildcard round is one weekend with the other 6 teams off, then the regular finals start, so say first wins, then they get another bye and then play in a prelim. It means that the team that wins their first final may only play 2 games in the space of a month. It would be a big consideration in the wildcard concept, and people would see that as an advantage or a disadvantage. We would also need to decide if the round is part of the final series itself or a special round that gaps the home and away season and the lead up to finals. This week leading up could present an opportunity for awards and broadcasters to celebrate some of the feats in the regular season. But it would overall no doubt add drama to the last round, and the AFL could have a field day with fixturing, with about 12 or 13 teams most years having a shot to finish 10th or higher up on the ladder. There would nearly be a guarantee of 3 or 4 games in that final round that would decide the fate of the ladder. But there are some drawbacks. The first is that it is very unlikely any side finishing 10th could win the flag, so what would be the point of including them besides pocketing extra money from the extra game? It's a fair question, but supporters could point towards Sydney, for example, in this season. They are healthy and have their stars back in form, and say they got into 10th, they might not be able to go all the way, but could cause damage and win a couple finals. It would be exciting. But on the flip side, if a side got in with more losses than wins, it could create an awkward feeling of rewarding a poor season. It feels like the concept itself isn't the potential issue here, but the actual makeup of the competition yearly and the strength of the teams that lie between 8th to 13th. But despite the mixed pot of good and bad, momentum is growing for the extra weekend of finals games. The AFL has moved the finals format quite a bit over time, and they definitely won't be afraid to do it again. It seems this is as far as the AFL will go in terms of the layout of the season. Simon Goodwin was on AFL 360 post round 15 and suggested we could even look at a conference format. His belief was that winning needs to be celebrated more, and that conference titles and things like that could give another goal during the season rather than just trying to qualify as high as possible on the ladder. With 18 teams, doing this would be difficult, as 3 conferences of 6 makes a finals format a bit strange, and 2 conferences of 9 barely seems worth it. It's a lot of work to do, and to break up tradition for essentially the same result, which in the end would be a final 8 to 10 teams. A mid-season tournament has also been floated to give a bit of a reward during the middle of the season when the grind gets real. Money could be a prize to the winners, but again, formatting this and getting a fixture that can evolve during 3 or 4 rounds in the heat of the season is a lot of work. It is a fine balance for the Commission to keep in mind if they do decide to spice up the finals. Sure, bringing in any of these concepts would involve more teams deeper into the season, but might also devalue the most important part of the AFL, which is winning. The ultimate rewards at the end of the year come from doing that when it matters most.